Hey there guys, how's it going? Back with another video. So, Felix Sturm is going to be continuing his super middleweight comeback, and he's going to be fighting an undefeated German fighter called James Kraft. Now, James Kraft I had never heard of before. There was rumours before this fight was announced that Sturm was going to be fighting Vincent Feigenbutz, who of course is a former title challenger from Germany, and that would have been a great fight, and a really interesting fight too. But that fight, for whatever reason, just never materialised. I guess they couldn't come to terms, so instead he's going to be fighting another German. He's going to be fighting this guy. Now, I had never heard of James Kraft before. I'd never seen him fight. I'd never heard anything about him before, but I looked at his record. He's an undefeated fighter. He's had 20 fights. He's 19-0 with one draw, and I believe he's had 10 knockouts. And I've watched a whole bunch of his fights online, and he looks like a fairly competent boxer. He's 6'1". He's quite big for the weight, and he uses his jab quite well. He's got quite good movement. But the problem is he's very easy to hit, very poor defense. I've seen him get out jabbed at times by shorter fighters who are basically journeymen, who are there to make him look good. And yeah, his defense is really poor. He seems to really load up on certain shots, like his right hand. There's a real tell when he's about to throw it. He's very predictable. And Felix Sturm in his last fight against Timo Rost looked quite sharp for me for the whole 10 rounds. And I was quite surprised by how athletic he was in the fight, because I was expecting, after a nearly 5-year layoff, I was expecting Sturm to look rusty, but he actually has stayed in shape, and he's looked pretty good in his comeback. So I honestly think that this is actually going to be an easier fight for Sturm, because Timo Rost had faster hands and was a little bit more competent on the inside than Kraft. And I just think that Kraft is going to try and box with Sturm, and that's going to be a problem, because Sturm has one of the best jabs in boxing, and he's going to out-jab him, he's going to outland him, and I think he's going to break him down. And do you know what? I would not be at all surprised if Felix Sturm was able to get the stoppage in this fight. Like, interestingly, I actually think this guy, like I said already, is an easier fight than the last opponent, Timo Rost. Even though Timo Rost didn't have a very impressive record, I think Timo Rost was a little bit more talented than this guy. He was quicker, more athletic, and I just think that Kraft to me just looks far too basic, far too upright, far too easy to hit, far too stiff, far too slow, and his punches are far too telegraph. I mean, he's got a good jab when he uses it, and he can kind of keep good distance between himself and his opponents, but against a guy like Felix Sturm, who has a world-class jab, he's not going to look that great on the back foot, in my opinion. And I think Sturm is going to start to chop him down with the right hand from distance. I think the jab, the lead left hook, all the shots that Sturm has looked very good with in the past will be on full display here. Let's not forget when Sturm fought Darren Barker, who of course was a borderline world-class fighter. He was a world champion going into that fight, and Sturm took him out by really taking the fight to him, and he was catching him with lead left hooks in the first round, and the second round he dropped him on his ass with an overhand right. And I think that Sturm, to me, he's at a stage of his career where, his punching technique and his skills have come together really nicely. And despite the fact he's past his prime, I just think he has too much for this kid. Kraft is only 24, so he's still young, so he's still learning, but he hasn't fought anybody. You look at his record, it's full of no-names, journeymen, and the type of opponents that you give to a prospect to make them look good, and he hasn't particularly looked great, and his punching power doesn't really seem that impressive for a super middleweight either. Like I said, he has 10 knockouts, which is okay, but against the level of opponent he's been fighting, you would expect for him to have more knockouts than what he has. And Sturm is slightly shorter, I believe. He's about 5'11", and doesn't have as long a reach as this guy, but I think that Sturm is the quicker of the two. I think he's the more heavy-handed, and I think he'll just outbox and chop down Kraft, and I think he'll stop Kraft in the later rounds, if I'm being honest. I'm going to go for a Felix Sturm stoppage from somewhere from the 7th round onwards. I think he'll probably force the stoppage. So, yeah, that's what I think is going to happen here. I see Sturm winning this fight by a late stoppage. Maybe Kraft can perhaps spoil a bit and just move around and go the distance. If he does that, he loses a wide decision. But I think either way, Sturm beats him. and beats him comfortably. And I think he's going to break him down personally, and I think he's going to win by, like I said, a late stoppage. So, yeah, assuming Felix Sturm gets by Kraft, I would love to see that Vincent Feigenboots fight, or maybe even a fight against Jürgen Bremer. Why not? I mean, that's a big fight in Germany, man. And yeah, German boxing is kind of on the ropes right now. There's really no quality in that country in boxing right now. There's no elite level fighters, so why not, bring back a couple of old legends and have them fight? I mean, Arthur Abraham is retired, so why not stick Jürgen Bremer, who's still active, and Felix Sturm in the ring together if they can't get the Feigenboots fight? So that's how I see it. I'm going with Sturm by late stoppage. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. This was just a quick one. God bless.